Hi, I'm Sherrie Clark, and welcome to Courage to Be Seen, where we discuss topics to help you have more success in your life. I want to give you the tools and techniques, strategies, and motivation so you can turn your dreams and desires into reality. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I was thinking about what topic that would be great for us to discuss. And I thought about, over the last couple months, we talked about, goals, New Year's resolutions, how to dream bigger, how to make 2020 your best year yet. So I thought, it's probably about time that we focus on how do you persevere? How do you have that motivation to keep going? I'm not sure, if you even remember the goals that you set at the beginning of the year. And maybe you didn't set them, maybe you intended. It doesn't really matter if you set a great action plan and you're still working on it, or if you haven't even got started. I think all of us could always sometimes have a way to get extra motivation. How do we keep going when the times get tough? I also think it's a good timing to talk about this with the sudden death of Kobe Bryant. And he has a complicated legacy. However, I don't think, anyone would disagree how hardworking that he was. He could generate, internal motivation to keep going, to keep practicing, to strive to be the best basketball player. There's all kinds of stories where he would stay like after games or after practice and just keep working. Sometimes he would be shooting and working on things all night. People would come in the morning for practice, his teammates, and ask him, like, hey, when did you leave or when did you get back? And he just like would look at him like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Because he had practiced all night long, just trying to get that little bit better to make him the incredible basketball player he was. What kind of a legacy that left in terms of how do you create, internal motivation? One of the goals that I set for myself in 2020 was to become a better runner. I used to run and I got away from it. It takes a lot of time. And so I haven't practiced it as much. In addition, I dealt with some health issues at the end of 2019. So my goal, I really wanted to get back to that level of fitness and the endurance that I had with running before. And as you know, it doesn't happen overnight. And you definitely need, tools and techniques to stay motivated along the way. A quote from Kobe Bryant: if you don't believe in yourself, nobody's going to do it for you. And that's really, when you think about when it comes to motivation and perseverance, you can't have other people motivate you. You can't have, other people that are really going to keep you going. You have to have ways that you can, motivate yourself. The definition of being persistent is continuing firmly in a course of action in spite of difficulty or opposition. Continuing to exist or endure over a prolonged period. Persistence is the ability to maintain action regardless of your feelings. You press on even when you feel like quitting until you achieve that important goal. Some synonyms include, constant, continual, enduring, relentless, repeated, steadfast, stubborn, unrelenting. Think about it. If you set a goal and it was important to you, aren't these adjectives that you would want to use to describe yourself and your actions? Enduring, relentless, stubborn sometimes, that are all adjectives that I think you want to have, or you want people to describe you as you work for your goal, as you work for those desires that you have for 2020. I know that's how I would want it to be described when I have an important goal and what I'm trying to achieve. But is this, kind of reality? Is it realistic that you're going to be unrelenting, that you're going to be just, repeated, go after it, go after it? Maybe you had a big project that came up at work. Maybe your kids got sick. Maybe you got sick yourself. That's all, things that come up in life. Maybe that's the reason that the goals that you set with lots of energy and lots of enthusiasm at the beginning of January no longer quite seem as important. And these are all very valid things that happen in our lives. However, we need to have a way that we can stay motivated despite these. They're not really excuses, they're reality, and we have to get around them. The key is, how do you keep them from stopping you? How do you accomplish your goals in spite of them? Just last week, someone asked me, it was more of a statement, but they were like, I don't know how you have time for your podcast with everything else going on. And that's true. There is a lot going on. I have a very busy life. I'm busy at work. I'm busy with my family. However, I make this a priority of mine. I schedule it. It doesn't happen by accident. It's important to me. And so I find a way to fit it in around all the other activities. And that's the key that you have. Yes, you're going to have that big project at work. You're going to travel. Your kids are going to get sick, whatever it might be. That doesn't have to derail your goals. Maybe it changes some of the timing. Maybe it changes a little bit of the plan and the execution of them, but it doesn't have to derail them overall. So let's take some time to reflect how the year is going. If you're listening to this live, it's about 7 weeks into 2020. About 13% of the year has gone by. What would you say that you have accomplished so far? Within 2 months, have you accomplished the amount that you expected? And why or why not? If you didn't set your goals, maybe it's time that you set the goals. There's still a lot of time in 2020 that you can accomplish lots of things. So don't use that as a reason, to put off the whole year if you didn't actually set anything. You can listen to the last 2 podcasts if you need help setting your goals, where we talk specifically around, setting goals and action plans. I think everybody should have goals really at all times that they're working on in their career, have a financial goal, a health goal, something around your friends and family, and personal growth. So if you don't have goals in these areas, take the time to set them. Take the time to write them down. Know what you want to accomplish in each of them so we can continue to work towards them. So you can write them down now. If you're driving, don't write them down now. Wait till you get to wherever you're going. But make sure you do have those. And let's take some time. Then I have a bunch of questions that I want you to think about. Pick one of those goals. It could be your health goal, your career goal, financial. Just pick one of them, and let's do some reflection on what the first 2 months of 2020 and how much progress that you made. So that'd be the first question. How would you state, the progress that you did make this year? Was it the amount you expected? And why or why not? Do you even remember your goal? Half of New Year's resolutions fail by the end of January. And this is mainly because people, they write the New Year's resolutions, but they didn't put a plan together. They didn't start to take action. They might not have even spent enough time thinking about what the goals want to be. Don't be that. So even if you set the goal and you didn't put action in, now you can start. So the second question is, did you write your goal down? Studies show over and over again that people that write down their goals are more likely to achieve them. I think writing them down helps. One, it clarifies the goal. It makes sure it's clear. You know what you want. Two, once it's written down, you have a reminder. You could then post the goal on your mirror or on your computer monitor. You could have it around your house, on your refrigerator, wherever you need to have it. But having it written down makes it more real, and it's something that you can then reflect back on. The third question is, did you have a plan? Did you just set the goal, or did you actually put the plan in place? And if you had a plan, was it actionable? I tell everyone over and over again, when you put a plan together, you need to find one thing that you can start doing now. You have to start that momentum. The first step many times is the hardest. So make sure the plan is actionable. The fourth question that I'd ask is the goal still important to you? If you set a goal and things have changed in your life, you should recognize that. And maybe you need to change it. Maybe it's still important to you, but it's not so important right now. Like when I was dealing with some of the health issues last year, trying to get back running wasn't very important to me at that moment. It was okay to put it off for a few more months. And so, is it important, and is it important now? The fifth question is, who knows about this goal? Did you keep it to yourself or did you share it? Do you have an accountability partner? Did you find something online, like maybe an online group that you could share it in? That's a key part to achieving your goals. You don't want to keep them all just to yourself. It's good to share them with others. And the last question is, how did you track your progress? Did you track your progress? Did you have any type of review process around your goal? So I encourage you to go back and go through these six questions with each of the goals that you set for 2020 and get an understanding of the progress that you made or haven't made in the first 2 months. That will help you to determine what kind of motivation that you need to keep going. It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. All that matters is that you get up one more time than you were knocked down. This is a quote by Roy T. Bennett. I really like this quote because it does reflect that, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to follow, just the perfect path to achieve whatever you want. All it really shows is you have to keep going. You have to just keep taking that next step. And sometimes it doesn't even matter the timings when you finally get to the finish line, but you just have to keep at it. So let's just focus on going forward. Let's not worry anymore about the past. I'm glad that you did the reflection to try to understand your goals, but we can't go back and change anything. So if you hadn't started to take action, today's as good as day as any. Today's as good a day to write your New Year's resolutions if you hadn't for 2020 or set the goals or the plans for the future. Hopefully, by listening to this podcast, you'll get the motivation, one, to get started, and then two, to keep going. I did some research on persistence and I really found some interesting things. The first one is there's a direct link between being persistent and having progress toward your goals and your personal happiness and well-being. So think about that. It's not the achieving of the goal that gives you happiness and well-being. It's that you feel like you have progress towards your goal. So we like to see progress. We like to feel progress. And that's very important when you think about how do you stay motivated. You need to stay motivated by having that progress. And as you feel that progress, your happiness will increase, your overall well being will increase. And so I want us to focus on that, not so much about the final outcome. Let's really focus on making progress and being persistent. Another interesting fact that I found was on commitment. And how committed are you? So, to highlight this, there's some data that full time college students are 30% more likely to persist towards their degree than part time students. Now, I know there's a lot of reasons people go to college part time, and I'm not encouraging that, because if that's the way that you can go to college and get a degree or get some further education, maybe a master's or something, then I support it. But you should know that it's tougher to stick with it versus when you're all in and you're fully committed and you're like a full-time student. It's actually 30% easier. The data shows that people stick with it. And so you need to think about that, and how does that relate to the other goals that you have in your life? And how committed are you to those? Is it something that you're doing like half-heartedly in your spare time? Or are you committing to it and putting a plan together and carving out time in your schedule to work on your goal? So I want to take some time to focus on steps that you can take to have more persistence. Things that you could do, right now as you're working towards your goals, because most things are actually mental issues. And as we go through the steps, I'm going to use examples of me and running to help, show how I applied, some of these steps to myself. And I know you're going to be saying that, well, running is physical. But the reality is what keeps you from running usually is mental, not the physical part. Yes, there's a lot of physical part. However, once you can overcome the mental piece, and as you work through the mental issues, the physical piece is actually probably coming at the same rate or even faster than the mental side. So that's why it's really important as we have plans, as we want to keep going when the times get tough. It really, really is a mental game. So the first one, and this one probably doesn't surprise you, I want you to write down your goal. I want you to be clear about what you're doing, why you're doing it, where you're going, and why. So if you can, write it down right now, if you don't already have it written down. If you're driving while you're listening to this, then wherever you get, you should actually probably keep a notebook in your car. I do that so I could write down things, or I take a note on my phone in the notes as soon as I get to where I'm going, so I don't forget these little kind of key bits of information. The second one, to be more persistent, is make sure you develop a plan. With that, I want you to have the right expectations and the right realistic time frame. So I actually wanted to start running towards the end of last year. So I think it was about December. I started to do some running. And because I was just getting going, my plan consisted of running, walking. So I'd go for several miles and I'd go back and forth between running and walking. That was my plan, to kind of get back into shape and just get motivated and get going with running again. However, in January, I set a real plan. I downloaded a workout plan, from the internet. This had very specific workouts, what to do each day, how far to run, how long to run, when to walk, when to run. It's amazing how much and how easier it was to run when I had that plan. When it was me going for 3 miles and do a combination of walking and running, it seemed like the running was incredibly hard and I better take a break and do some walking. However, when I had a written plan and the written plan said run 45 minutes, it was probably almost easier to run the 45 minutes than it was to do the running and walking when it was more arbitrary and it wasn't set of how much was supposed to be one and then the other. So I highly recommend that you have a plan. Now, my plan is a 17-week workout plan. However, I know things will come up. This is where you want to have realistic timeframes. And so I had to build in, what would I do if I'm traveling? What will I do if I can't make a workout? I know I'm going to complete my plan. It will take me longer than 17 weeks, and that's okay. If I can finish the plan in 20 or 22 weeks with a few extra weeks of or breaks, in between some of my workouts, hey, that's still okay. I'm still doing much better than I was in January. And so have that plan, but make sure it's realistic and make changes to it, if needed. The third step is figure out in advance what motivates you. Like, one thing is, I love motivational quotes. So if you want to check out some of my motivational quotes, I post daily on Instagram. You can just search for Sherrie Clark, Courage to Be Seen, and you'll find it. And you can follow me there, and you can get regular motivational quotes. Because your desire and your commitment will kind of balance out. So you need to make sure you have ways that you can motivate yourself. I put quotes on my mirror. I put things, around my house. I listen to podcasts to help motivate me. I highly recommend that you find friends, coaches, accountability partners to help keep you motivated. There's apps that you can get on your phone, depending on what type of goals that you have, that can provide reminders and provide that motivation. Maybe it's alarms on a regular, basis to provide those motivations. Some people like pictures, especially like if you're trying to get into better shape. You can kind of have before or after pictures, but figure out in advance. Figure out now as you're getting started, what are the ways that you can personally motivate yourself so you can put those in place as you go forward. Have them be part of your plan. Have them already in place when you get started, not try to be searching for them, at a later time in case they're needed. Just plan on that they're going to be needed. The fifth thing is have a plan for when obstacles come up. Try to anticipate in advance what type of issues might happen and how you're going to deal with them. One thing I do is I plan the day before, or sometimes several days before, what time I'm going to run. Is it a morning run? Is it an afternoon run? I look at the weather so I can plan, am I going to need my gloves? Am I have to bundle up because it's cold out, or is it incredibly hot and it's rainy? In what time am I going to go run? And so that way I don't have to wonder when the time comes, should I go run now or should I run in a couple hours? I also know that, if I can't work out because something came up at work, how am I going to handle that in my workout plan? I will add some extra days occasionally because I'm traveling and I won't be able to work out. So I'm not skipping those workouts. I'm just adding a couple extra rest days in the overall plan. But know in advance that when you have those obstacles, it'll make it so much easier to stick with your plan because it's already planned that way and you don't have any excuse to scrap the whole thing. You can just deal with it as it comes up. The sixth item is focus on small goals that keep you motivated. So when I run, I focus on a lot of things because if you're going to run for, let's say, an hour, that is a long time to give your mind to think. And so I have a variety of things I do. Sometimes I focus on one song at a time. I just focus, okay, let's just focus on running, getting through this song. And then when the next song comes up, all right, let's focus on this song. And then that. And you find out as you pass through these little obstacles, eventually the hour's up and you're done running. Another thing I do is like if I'm running a hill, that can be, the most challenging. So I run and kind of focus on counting my steps. I count to 10 over and over again. And as I are really just focusing on how to take 10 steps, as I run up the hill and then take 10 more steps and then take 10 more steps, 50 to 100 steps, you're up the hill and you accomplished, that little milestone, that you had to get through. And probably the third way that I keep motivated when I run is I pick a target. All right, let's focus on running to that fire hydrant or that stoplight up ahead. And rather than think about, all 5, 6 miles or whatever you're going to run that morning, those smaller milestones allow you to feel that sense of accomplishment as you keep going. I also listen to, an app that will call out my time and distance. So I know kind of where I'm at. I'm not wondering, how much farther it is. And it kind of keeps me set. So break your goal, up into like these smaller things that you can use as motivation, in the moment of whatever you're trying to accomplish. Don't have it be too big. The next one is, have a mantra that you can use like in the moment. For me, when I'm running, and I know it's persistence is the key to success. I say that to myself over and over again. That way, I'm not worried about if I'm going to know what to say to myself. So you want to have that mantra that you can say to yourself over and over and over again. Also, I only count the workout if I complete it as written. So if I'm supposed to run for 45 minutes, at 30 minutes, you sure don't want to stop because it doesn't count. You're going to have to do that whole thing over again. So know about that in advance. And lastly, make sure you record your progress. That you review the progress that you've made and you celebrate your success. These are all very important parts to keep motivated because if you don't write down what you accomplished, it's hard to actually tell if you're making progress or not. So make sure when I get done with the workout, I wrote down the date that I did the workout. I can see the progress very easily. And then you can make changes, if needed as you go through the steps. So let me just summarize, the steps that we went over to help you maintain your motivation and persistence. Write down your goal. Very, very important. The second one, develop your plan. Have it actionable. Have it written down. I thought I had a plan in December I was going to start running. It's amazing 1 month later, having that written down plan, how much easier it was to keep going. Know in advance what motivates you. Have that ready, not when you need it. Have it ready in advance. Plan for your obstacles that could come up. That way you don't have to think about what you're going to do. You can just go do it. Focus on small goals. That way the small goals can add up and you can get extra motivation. Have a mantra that you can play over and over in your head. Persistence is the key to success is mine. I love to say it over and over. Record your progress, review and celebrate success. Hopefully, these steps will help you as you try to keep going when the times get tough. You just got to stick with it. Find people to help you out. Get that accountability partner and keep listening to Courage to Be Seen. We will want to have more success in our lives. I want to continue to help you. And so just remember that we can only be ourselves. And by learning to embrace, all of myself, I have developed the courage to be seen. I have experienced more happiness in my life. And I'm hoping to share the tools and techniques with you so you can experience more joy and happiness in your own life. I invite you to check out my website, couragetobeseen.com. Where you can find more about me, my coaching program, my contact information. I encourage you to follow me on Instagram, where I post daily motivational quotes. And if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe. So that way, make sure that you'll get notification when the next one comes out. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you soon.